Hello and welcome to the Terminal Velocity Comic Book Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew.
And I'm Scott.
And this week we're back again with Season 2, Episode 2, where we're going to discuss the state of the DC Universe. If you followed our podcast and you look at our title, you can know that we were definitely Flash fans. And the Flash has gone through quite a ride over the last couple of years. And especially our boy Wally. And so we do have some updates to talk about. So what we figured we would do this episode is just kind of catch up with each other because we haven't really talked much about DC Comics over our break, and so we'll see where we're at, how we felt about recent stories, and in this week's release of Infinite Frontier number 0.
Yeah, I would say this week was the most DC books I've read in a long time, and I can't say that it was entirely unreluctantly. Like I had a lot of trepidation about this week's books, and it turns out rightfully so from a few of the titles. I'll start it off by just saying I really don't know if I'm ready for Peacemaker to be kind of the face of DC in some of its media platforms just yet. That's something I'm still going to be struggling with. But yeah, that's kind of my thinking right now.
Yeah, Peacemaker. I did until James Gunn put him in his movie and they announced it and then said they're doing a TV show too. And I had no idea who that was.
I didn't really know who it was. I still don't really know who it is. Yeah. But we're going to be getting, I feel like we're going to be getting a lot of John Cena for a little while. In the same way that we had a lot of Harley Quinn, and we still do.
There's more in the pipeline too.
I know. So I think that's going to be one thing that definitely, and that's one of the things I think as I'm mid thought here and kind of having a brain fart, but that's one of the things that I think I struggle the most with on the DC side is when the media details or releases don't hit the mark, but they're still pushing so hard into the books that it seems to degrade the books as well. It's like this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy of crap that ends up happening where it's just something is shit over on this side and it just kind of rolls downhill and hits the books and takes them with them. And I really don't know that I'm ready for that. Now, that said, James Gunn, I don't mean that specifically as about Suicide Squad because I genuinely think that will be a fun movie. But I want these companies to be able to be comfortable just doing something in books and something in movies, and they don't necessarily have to intersect in any way, shape, or form because the books have been around for, in some cases, these characters for like half a century. So like there's a lot of history there that they don't need to rehash and kind of shit on when they're making the movies with whatever way they want to make the movies in its current contemporary tone and kind of story formats. That's the start of my little soapbox.
I can definitely agree with that concern. I'm very concerned with DC and Marvel to a degree, where they are kind of just becoming marketing vehicles for the movies and television shows. And I totally get it, right? Like that, if I was making movies, I'd want my core product to keep pushing it. And but I feel like they're taking the stance of let's fling shit at the wall and see what sticks. And it doesn't matter if it's consistent or not, or if it makes any sense. And then they when they think they found a fad, like you said, they just hammer in on it, and it doesn't always land. Like Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey didn't make the landing. And they were pushing so hard in the books with that. I think to a degree they may even noticed that wasn't going to because it canceled a bunch of Birds of Prey products that were in the pipeline. But I'm just generally confused by DC Comics nowadays. I wouldn't say I'm a stickler for continuity. I think that you can still have a continuity and play a little loose with it as long as the story makes sense. You know, borrow things, retcon little elements to make your story work. But I think it's going a little further than that now. Now, especially with this omniverse and linear verse and all this supposed stuff to make it less confusing. But I think it's more just to give the writers and an editorial. Let me backtrack on my statement. I was going to say it makes their job a little easier. I think it's making the company be able to operate with less people and less focus on editing.
That's probably true, and it's holding them less accountable um, to an actual overall story arc. It's just kind of people can come in and do as they please and have that freedom, which I'm not entirely against. That's why I think things like Elseworlds on its own actually works so well, because then you could come in and tell a completely wild and different story that was on the go. Let's take one step back and because a lot of what we're talking about is kind of also what was introduced and talked about in Infinite Frontier, that the issue that launched this week, with kind of where DC in its print format is going to be going, and the introduction of all of these multiverses and, like you say, linear verses, and then this Earth Omega, I think it was called. And I just, it's one of those things where it kind of, you can see it in concept being a great idea. You can see the writers sitting down and being like, do you know what would be great if everything happened and nothing happened? That way we can pick and choose what we want. And in concept, that does work, and that is fantastic. In practice, it's where you run into where old curmudgeon nerds like us will run into it and be like, no, you can't do that. You cannot do that, because then you're discounting an event that happened to a character in one storyline, and then you're going to overplay it in another storyline. And something more tangible that I'm talking about is kind of what they're doing with Oracle right now, which I'm happy that they're bringing her back as Oracle, but they're still playing it safe by saying, oh, she's still got that back neural implant, and should she ever need it, she can still go out there as Batgirl if she wants
She's
to.
going to be more selective about her missions.
Yeah, she's going to be
So,
selective about it. So you know that you're still going to get those storylines. So you're going to play with her as Oracle, and then when you don't want her as Oracle, you're going to let her be Batgirl when there's already been an introduction of two other Batgirls. So now there's going to be like, it's where it runs into some issues for us, is that you sit back and you go like, I really like this one character, so why don't you give me that character? Why do you have to play with the idea that that character can actually be four characters if they want to be?
when you said that they brought out the team of Batgirls, and it's funny, individually I like each of them as Batgirl for my own different, for each
Yeah,
their own reason. As a team of squad of Batgirls, I'm totally against that concept.
it doesn't make sense. It
It's like
doesn't
it's
make
like it's like
sense.
Birds of Prey, but without the diverse characters. And when I say diverse, I mean, like, there's different character. Instead, you're gonna have it's like Batman Inc. all over again. Like, I don't really
Batman Inc. It's like the
that.
Robin book that they had a few years ago, where it was Robins, and there was like three or
Yeah.
four of them out there. Like, there's a reason why the concept doesn't work. It's because it then doesn't give you a character to actually be invested in. And you can't get
Well,
invested in a
that's the
character
problem.
if you play fast and loose with whatever history and whatever future you want to give them.
That's the problem with everything and nothing happened. Everything counts. Everything happened and nothing happened. Like you lose that focal point for like your ongoing reader. Sure, you might get your sales spike with a new number one, or introduction of a new character, a new version of the character, but it's all temporary.
Mhm.
Your core audience is going to fall off when you don't have a consistent story that they can get invested in.
Speaking of
Like, I
that,
don't. This was my problem with Wolverine in the Marvel comics for the longest time, is that he'd be over in Avengers, but then he's also over in the X-Men, and then his solo book, and then he's also guest starring in 3 other titles as well. And it's like, where does that even fit?
yeah,
How does that even make any sense in terms of storytelling? And
yeah,
that's what I think DC is kind of angling towards, the Marvel model, where, but they still want to keep their multiverses at the same time.
And I'm wondering if it's that brings up a good point. Is it more that they're calling out the fact that they're going to make continuity all encompassing and non encompassing at the same time, as opposed to just going ahead and doing it? Is that what's bothering us? Because Marvel, like you say, Marvel does this all the time. They play fast and loose with their continuity whenever they see fit, but they don't really put a stake in the sand and
We've been
say,
conditioned for decades to accept that from Marvel. DC, we've been conditioned to be. This is what happened. This is Crisis Reset. This is the set timeline.
right.
This is the chain of events. Now you're telling me Batman also has slowly been aging since 1939, and he used to use guns, but he didn't. But then maybe he didn't, and then he had four Robins. But maybe it's six, and maybe it's he had Batman Inc. in this story, but in this story he doesn't have. He never had it,
Yeah.
and
What so when you
I don't
talk
know.
about it, do you think the structure of Infinite Frontier was kind of a good indicator of how challenging reading some of these books is going to be going forward?
I
Because
thought
I
Infinite
didn't.
Frontier itself was challenging to read because it felt like
That's what
an
I
80
mean.
page marketing advertisement as opposed to a cohesive story. It had moments where I was generally happy and I enjoyed it, and then other moments where I was like, "What the hell are they doing?" And um, yeah, I'm concerned that we're heading towards. Okay, let me put it this way. So right now we have our ongoing books, Batman 100, whatever, and it's one in sequence, right? My concern is if we're heading in towards a way that it's like, okay, here's so and so's run for 6 issues, and then Batman 107. It's like here's someone else's run, but it's like a whole different continuity, and it's just like a chain of mini series just labeled as an ongoing series,
Right. Consecutive numbering in numbering alone.
and
It's
just
not.
essentially becoming an anthology as opposed
Yeah.
to in ongoing adventures. Which I mean, they've tried that with Batman. They've had many anthology books, and they run for a while, and then people realize like none of this really matters. And that's the problem with Elseworlds is that Elseworlds only matters when you have your consistent timeline that defines what the character is, and
Yeah.
then you go step outside the norm to tell an interesting story. What if Batman was a woman, or Batman
It's only
operated
interesting.
in a different city?
It's only
Like
interesting to see the dark timeline if you're stuck in the light timeline the whole time.
exactly, and I feel like we're stuck in the darkest timeline right now. So it's yeah.
Yeah. So what was, and I have to ask this, what was some of the moments where you were reading this book that really made you go, "Oh God, oh no, please don't do this." Did you have any moments where you just kind of thought to yourself, "Oh shit, this is really not going to go well"?
Yeah, from page one with Wonder Woman ascended to like potentially the godhood, and she's talking to the Quintess, and they're like, "Where are these five immortal beings or whatever? And come join us to watch the universe unfold." And it's like, oh man, like I want the source wall back. I don't want to talk to these guys. No, but I was just like, oh boy, like yeah, they're trying to do something different with Diana, and it's not gonna last.
Yeah.
It's not like she's going to ascend and like, oh yeah, Yara, Flora Yara, whatever, I forget her name. I don't
Yeah.
mean to, but Yara, the new Wonder Woman, she's not going to be the definitive replacement. Tim Fox is not going to be the definitive replacement for Batman. John Kent, oh God, that's definitely not going to be the replacement for Superman. But they are trying this to like kind of almost fool the reader into thinking that, oh, here's new status quo change.
Hmm.
They've done it over and over and over again, but this time it's like they're just like it feels different. I'm not even sure I'm articulating my thoughts correctly on this, but it's so blatantly a stunt.
I felt that the most when I was reading the Superman kind of piece
Oh,
of this story, where the Spectre was like, no, we should just take him out right now, and just wanted to basically kill Superman.
yeah, John
Because
Kent,
yeah,
he's
the
the
John
ultimate
Kent,
evil. We detect him now. Yeah, this is the problem for the future.
Yeah.
As he's like selflessly sacrificing himself to save a creature he doesn't know.
Yeah. So I read that and I was like, oh no, why are we doing a dark and scary Superman again? Why do we always have to do a dark and scary Superman?
What are they doing differently with John Kent that they couldn't do with Superman? Like, can you like? I maybe I just don't get the John Kent character. I don't understand the appeal of him as an adult, and then just replacing Superman when he literally looks just like a young Superboy version of Superman.
I don't know.
Like you
I
could,
can't.
I don't understand it. And then they want to put like what Superman like I saw a future state he was like on War World in like a gladiator battle thing, like Planet Hulk kind of
I
thing. And
I
it's like,
just I feel like they have no idea what to do with Superman right now for
well,
some
that's because
reason.
they also think the concept of him is irrelevant in today's world, which they couldn't be further from the truth.
Hmm.
Um,
That's what I mean. Like the dark and scary Superman. Why do we need to do this? I think it was Joe Kelly did a fantastic issue on the hope that Superman has when he introduced Manchester Black and all of that kind of stuff. Like,
sorry, I must interrupt you, Scott. AT&T said that episode didn't happen. That issue, sorry, that
that
it
one
happened, but it didn't happen.
that's one of the ones that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, but that's one of those things where it's like, okay, we've done these storylines before. I don't know that having a Jonathan Kent as opposed to a Clark Kent is really going to bring in any net new readers when he's still going to be facing the same foes, when he's still got the same power set. And it's just going to be one of these, well, he's learning more of his
Well,
powers.
that's
Like
the
the
thing
things.
with BC and Marvels. They're chasing this non-existent new customer base that they think they're going to find, and I just don't know how what they're doing to bring these people in because these stories don't like it. Maybe it's they need to bring in writers of a new generation that can actually speak to the people they're trying to reach. But
But
we're
the,
seeing like I mean, I guess we are seeing a lot of new voices, but
I think
they
the
could be
funny
just
thing
a
is that when it comes to getting their media stuff out there, and it's one of those things that annoyed me at the beginning, is none of this is going to be permanent because as soon as a new Batman movie comes out, Bruce Wayne's going to be back on the scene and he's going to be the big thing. Like you just know that it's going to be tied in. They're not going to have some unknown as Batman when they're just releasing a movie that's going to be Bruce Wayne.
their $150 million film, and those kind of stakes are behind it. Yeah.
They're just not going to do it. And what's wrong with just having some of these characters just be who they are? Like if you want to introduce a new Superman, fine, introduce a new Superman in a new way. Make it worthwhile to us. Don't just be like, oh, it's his kid and he's grown up and taking the mantle.
Yeah.
Like that's not really a new Superman. It's just a new
No,
costume.
it's just a reskin basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I
the
felt like that's what all of the up until one point, that's really what I feel like the Infinite Frontier was, is just a reskin to see if any of this is going to stick. And I think the only thing I'm really hopeful that sticks, I'm really hoping it sticks.
Let me stop you before you touch on it because that's the only one positive note in this book. To answer your question about whether I had other moments where I was like, "What are they doing?" I had an the hell is this shit when I saw Shazam on the page.
Well, you know that they have to change the name.
It's so Bendis it hurts.
It's just what they're gonna do. It's just I think it's one of those
Shazam.
ones that where once you read it, you were like, oh yeah, they definitely have to change his name in today's culture. That is not an acceptable name
But
to
what
have.
happens? They're filming Black Adam in like 2 months. So like, what is he gonna go revert back to Black Adam as the movie comes out? Like you said,
But that's the
because
thing. I don't know. I mean, he doesn't have
I
the
can't see a poster saying Shazam coming to theaters.
I don't know that I can see
I
one
would think that
saying
was a
Black
parody of
Adam either.
Shazam. What's that?
I don't know that I can see one saying Black Adam either. Right? Like today, I don't see them doing that. I can't see them getting
It'll
away with
be
it.
the Legend of Shazam, Black Adam. Shazam Chronicles, Black Adam Adventures,
Yeah.
the Rise of Shazam.
The Rise of Shazam is what it'll be. I don't know. They're gonna come out, and they actually called him Black Adam in that title as well. So they clearly can't make up their mind about what they're gonna call him. But yeah, they're
I
definitely gonna
think this
change
was
that.
definitely like you said, a testing ground. Like I know they put that in there to see the reaction, and I saw rumors of this name coming up on the rumor sites for weeks, and I figured it was real, but I had hoped it wasn't because they denied it, and
Mhm.
then there it is in print. So
It's like one of those things where somebody's like, okay, we need to change Black Adam's name. Shazam. Just put it down for now. We'll change it later. And then it goes to
or
print, and they're
or
like, oh shit.
after the layoffs, AT&T layoffs, they somebody wrote it down as a placeholder, and then that editor got fired, and they
And that's
just
just
went to
it.
print.
That's the
Guess
kind of
that's what
thing.
we're doing.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Now,
Let me list another one that came to mind. Oh yeah, Lucius Fox still having the Wayne fortune
yeah.
and boasting about how they're the richest family now. I'm like, what?
Yeah, would he not have just turned around and been like, here you go, Bruce, here's all your money
In the
back?
Batman book, there was a very weak explanation as to why he couldn't take the money back. And but then now it seems like he's now just full of it with like it's gone to his head that he's now the wealthy man and like Bruce is sort of operating on a minuscule budget or whatever.
I still don't get
And
what
then
kind of budget he's
He's
operating
got
on.
Grifter as his like bodyguard, which I already knew about from the Batman title. But it's just like, really? And then this whole Joker killed Bane thing, I don't buy it. For one, it'll be undone at some point when they
Mhm.
want to bring Bane back. I mean, I get it after King's run on Batman, they would just want to throw away that character,
Mhm.
forget about it. But that's not going to last.
No.
I would be shocked. I would pay money to if that came true, that he's definitively killed off like that.
Well, it's not the Joker because no one's laughing.
No,
Their
it's
faces are twisted and stuff, but they're not laughing. So it's clearly
and
not the Joker.
that's going to be how they converge the new Joker ongoing book with the Batman book is that there's something someone's operating and using his mo,
Yeah.
but it's it's going to be tied to the Scarecrow.
Yeah.
They're chemist, right? Like they already pretty much tell you that at the end of the preview, anyways. And Steve Jobs
I
apparently.
was just about to say, and of course they have to go with a
All the
Steve
inmates
Jobs
updated
esque.
the latest firmware, and it jokerized them.
Yeah. Oh God. I don't know what they're doing. And the
I
design
don't
of
know.
the scarecrow, I just saw that and I was like, syringes on his fingertips. Like, oh my
You know,
God, come on.
we
We're
love
not in
him
the
as on the show,
90s.
we really do, but not everything's gold.
No, no. That was one of those ones where I saw that and I just went, no, I don't want a Freddy Krueger. I don't need the scarecrow being like that.
Well, you know that the next artist that comes on board long term is going to change it because they'll go back to basics because it's too convoluted and too messy to draw. It's
Mhm.
why you slowly see the lines on a forehead disappear, except for the Flash. For some reason, they just really like the lines on the forehead.
They stick with it.
But like you saw most of those Jim Lee lines that New 52 had disappear because it's just too much work, right? Like it's too
Yeah.
much fine detail and it muddies the costume.
Yeah. So
The last one that comes to mind though is just I guess the Teen Titans tease where it's like who's the Red X or whatever.
yeah,
Like
the the
don't care.
Teen Titans Academy, I guess.
Yeah.
That Okay. I'm not going to be reading it. No fault against the creative team or
I
anything
don't think
like that.
anybody is going to be reading.
I just don't have the interest in a Teen Titans Academy book. I didn't read the Gotham Academy book. I didn't read I know Young Avengers was supposedly good, but like an Avengers Academy type thing. I don't think I really read much of that. Um it's
You know what?
just
Sorry to interrupt you. I just thought of something else that didn't make any sense in the book. Renee Montoya is commissioner. of GCPD now. After she quit, and I'm pretty sure under scandal, she quit and became the Question. And now she's back as a not only as back with the GCPD, but also the commissioner.
Yeah, that's one of those things that history doesn't matter.
Oh, right, sorry, I didn't get the memo.
Right? You pulled in old continuity that they've decided to erase for reasons. Even though Bendis just had Montoya as was part of the whole event Leviathan type thing. I guess that I guess that storyline doesn't matter. Which
What, you
thank
missed
God.
Leviathan? Oh, just destroyed Manhunter for me.
Yeah.
What about? Oh, there was something else on that book that I wanted to talk about. Just go on. It'll come back to me.
I was going to say the one shining light of the whole thing was the return of our boy Wally,
Yes.
officially taking over the mantle. Now, with a huge caveat that Barry Allen will take it back in the not too distant future once the Earth Omega and
Oh God, the
the
Justice
President
whatever they called it.
Superman type of stuff fizzles out. I'm sure Barry Allen will come back and it'll be who's the real Flash type of storyline. But I'm happy to say that Wally is at least on
But
some
but are
kind
they
of.
bringing him back just to trash him again? Like,
I mean, that's what it feels like is going to happen. But at least he'll be the actual Flash. So hopefully they bring him back in the stories and it's a short-lived kind of on him, and then it's just full-blown Wally as the Flash again, because I can't wait to have Wally as the Flash.
I have been waiting for that for the last, I think, 20 years now. Again, I think it has been like 20 years since he was Flash.
Has it
Maybe 10
been
years. But
has it been that long?
no, it must be closer to 10 years. But
It's got to be older than 10 years.
it's long. It's been a long time. What was the new 52 was what, 2012, I guess.
Yeah. So that's nearly 10 years ago. And he
10 years,
was,
about a little over 10 years.
so we'll say 15. It's been a long time, and it's about time that they brought him back as the Flash.
Oh, he is the Flash.
Yes. He's the definitive Flash, and he's always been known to be the fastest of all of them. So why he was dethroned, I don't know.
Because like Superman, they have to depower him to make anything other threat credible, I guess. I don't know.
Speaking
Now,
of
can I ask you one last thing? I remembered what I was going to bring up.
Okay.
When you get to the last pages and you see the black word balloon and the voice talking, did you have a moment of panic that it was the Batman who last coming back again?
I did. I had a very strong moment of, oh no, please don't.
Not yet.
Yeah, too soon. It was a lot of PTSD at that point. I was terrified.
I'm like, the text is white. There's still a chance it's someone else.
This is someone else. And then they reveal who it is. And I was just like, hasn't this quintessence or whatever they're called been killed like this like 8 times now? So, but again, that was in previous continuity. That probably doesn't matter at this point. It's just one of these events where you're like, okay, I know this isn't going to stick. So, oh no.
Well, when John Romita Jr. is the artist, it kind of like it eliminates the threat to me anyways. I won't be reading it.
No, that was why they picked him for those final pages. I don't know.
Just to remind you of what you're about.
This is where you're going, people. Oh God. So
you think
yeah,
he does pages on a discount, or
he might. I went from reading that book.
I'm sorry, that's terrible.
Having the high on Wally, and then I went ahead and I read Suicide Squad.
Oh, why?
And do you want me to spoil some of it for you?
Go right ahead.
So Peacemaker is a huge player in it, obviously, if you can't tell from the cover. The other people in the squad basically get killed in that whole Arkham event that happened while they're breaking out Talon, because Talon's going to be joining the Suicide Squad. I can't remember his actual name, but that's who they're breaking out. And then
Talon, I'm
Walt,
pretty sure is Dick Grayson's uncle or something like that.
some crap. And then Waller is actually imprisons Flag because he doesn't like the new path that she's taking the Suicide Squad down because she's sick of having losers on the team. But she's
That's
actually
the
got
general concept you picked, lady. Like,
she has got Superboy as a prisoner that she's going to be using on the squad.
now why does that sound familiar? Like that whole concept of like controlled Superboy. Is that not like what? Aren't they're like kind of stealing that from the Titans show and like the new 52
Yeah.
Superboy?
Yeah. So he's going to be controlled by
Oh,
them.
God.
He's like got
Why did they
kryptonite
even bring
chains
Connor Kent?
on.
Why did they even bring him back? Like to do this
They
nonsense, this
they
crap with
brought him
him.
back to do this. Not that's what I like saw that final page and I was like, okay, I'm not buying the next issue.
Bendis wasn't enough. Young Justice wasn't enough for him. They had to just bury him with Wally.
Yeah. So that happened. And then I read the new Swamp Thing where it's not going to be Alec Holland anymore. It's somebody else is taking over. And I can't remember the character's name. If they said it once, then I it didn't stick for me. Um, but it's
Well, I'm
going,
suddenly invested in Swamp Thing now. It's not Alec Holland.
yeah, it's somebody completely different, and it's laying heavy into the horror route. So that was kind of fun to be reading. But I just by the end of the book, I was like, okay, I don't know that this is really going to stick for me.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of on the fence with that one. Um, what was the other one that I told you that I read? Oh, Crime Syndicate. That was I know that one's a mini series, and Starro makes an appearance in it, which is interesting.
Oh,
So Starro from the Crime Syndicate world or universe is there, um, which is kind of interesting. But I might read that mini series just to kind of see where it goes. It's a big
mhm.
might on that one. It was a lot like reading or Ultraman's origin is very akin to um, Brightburn. Was that the name of the movie?
Mhm.
Where he shows up on a farm. Obviously, the people of the Mon Pa Kent from that world aren't necessarily the same kind of Mon Pa Kent from, Earth Prime or whatever we want to call it. Uh, um, so I don't know. I struggle with that one about whether I actually liked it or not. I like the cover. The cover was really nice, but I don't know about the rest of the book. And then, yeah, I think that was. Oh, and then Batman. And for some reason, Suicide Squad picks up with the events of kind of Infinite Frontier. Um, there's some payoff in other books of kind of what happens in Infinite Frontier, and then the Batman title is just completely off on its own with a completely different story, which
And
isn't a
they all
problem.
it's always what happens with Batman because Batman never had like it's the top seller, like it just it's its own thing, and then it rarely lines up properly with anything else going on in the universe.
Which bothered me because it was such a main thread in the Infinite Frontier book. Like
And it will converge. It's just they're still in the middle of the storyline that he's telling right now, which
so
it is
anyway,
what it
it
is.
it bothered me, and then it had the whole scarecrow thing. So off of the bat, there, DC is showing me that it still doesn't have a cohesive plan of what it's doing, except sometimes on books that don't really matter. It's going to keep a thread line, and on the books that are their main properties, they're maybe not going to be playing too much within the rules that these smaller books are going to be doing.
Yeah.
That's really the feeling that I get from reading their books this week is like some of this is going to be important and the rest of it is going to continue on like none of this is happening.
Hmm. Well, part of the story is like that that Wonder Woman isn't going to ascend to godhood or whatever it is that the quintessence was offering her because in future state she's the sensational or sorry the immortal Wonder Woman or whatever, and she's off in space.
Mm-hmm.
and like there's enough indicators that that's not gonna happen. But at the same time, I'm like they're retreading the '90s again, where Hippolyta is now gonna step in and be the Wonder Woman
Yeah.
while Diana's off doing whatever. Like it's like it's almost like they're like, how do we bring back the death of the Superman era, where like we replaced everything and we had this huge sales spike.
Hmm.
So it's like, yeah, shuffle Superman off with his son. He's replaced. Batman's like defunded, and now I
Hmm.
guess the other Batman will rise. I guess, and then you have your new Wonder Woman coming in to tell some story there. Uh, I was excited for Green Lantern until I saw the preview in Infinite Frontier. I was kind of like looking for a back to basics Green Lantern book when they announced this title, and I'm not convinced that that's what it's going to be after having seen that section.
Yeah, it's going to be more of the Teen Lantern.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like
a
that they
little
even
nervous.
made fun of that though, that where they're like Teen Lantern. Really? That's what we're going with? No, I agree with you. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's just the problem is we don't know. They don't, and it's pretty obvious they don't really know. They're just going to try some new things to see what happens. But it doesn't feel like there's a reason why they need to tell the stories that they're going to be telling
Mhm.
beyond they just want to try something new. And I think that's what's going to be the problem with the books is that they're not trying to tell the definitive story of this and how this would impact the heroes. They're just going to see if maybe this happens and see if it sticks, that
That's
kind of
it.
thing.
It's like you throw the shit at the wall and see what sticks, and that's. I hate multiverses, man. Like,
I don't
I,
hate multiverses. I love
I
a
I like it
multiverse.
in concept, but like in execution, it's always a mess. It's always like it's
It's when you
always overutilized and always
That's the thing. It's like the
confusing. Like
Joker.
it doesn't need to be.
It's exactly like the Joker. The Joker is fantastic when you use him sparingly. When all you do is have one Joker fight and then another Joker and then give him his own solo
No,
titer.
you need an ongoing series and other appearances in other books, and then solo movies,
Yeah,
and you've gotta have it.
like that's where it falls
Nonstop
down.
Joker. In fact, even in your Batman book, its tying thread has to be Joker. It just has to be ongoing,
Hmm.
never stop.
It's where the problems lie. You would never think that Batman actually had a good rogues gallery. You you just excuse me. You just think that he's only got the Joker and maybe now Scarecrow and I guess the Riddler at some points.
Well, after the last 5 years of Batman, I don't think he has a rose gallery. He's too busy moping about Catwoman and
Yeah.
his daddy issues. Uh,
So the one thing I am looking forward to, so that's the books. That's kind of what's happening in their print. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually looking forward to the Snyder cut.
I was just thinking about that too, actually.
I'm
Uh,
beyond
yeah,
myself that I'm actually excited for it because when it was originally coming out, I thought, oh, this is going to be a dumpster fire. And it still has all the makings of one, but I'm excited to see what his interpretation was going to be because the Whedon version was so terrible.
Justice League. Yeah,
Yeah.
I and maybe shoot myself in the foot, but I think I was excited for his version back in the day, and maybe some listener will hear me saying something else back in old recordings. I don't know, but I'm fairly certain I was excited about it. I think it's a shame that Warner Brothers is so stubborn that they're not even even though it's HBO Max, it's a sister company to Warner Brother Pictures, and they're so butthurt over the like that their vision isn't really taking off what they shuffled and spoon fed down our throats didn't work, and that and now like this it's a form of backtracking to see the Snyder cut being realized and being so like
Hmm.
loved in regard after denying it even existed for years. um at least, and this is what I was saying to some other friends too, is that whether it sinks or swims is not the issue with it. It's like, at least had they just said, you know what, this is the vision that we strapped ourselves to. Let's just see it through.
Hmm.
At least it would have been a cohesive vision straight through Man of Steel through Justice League, and that has been the problem. Is that Warner Brothers is too busy trying to chase Marvel, but not just that, chase Marvel at the moment in time that they're at with
Yeah.
Marvel.
Yeah.
So it's like when they started out with when they announced, Batman versus Superman, you like Dawn of Justice. It was like, okay, they're trying to rush to Avengers, like they're just trying to
Hmm.
get there. And then as Justice League came out, they were like, we gotta have it, we gotta get closer. Like, oh my god, it's like almost Endgame. Like we gotta be making billions on every movie. It can't just like have a slow build up. There's no time to build up any of the characters. We just gotta have to throw them all together and see it through. Whereas, aside from Snyder's cameo scene in Batman v Superman, where it's like, oh, Lex has a file dossier and all the potential Justice League members.
With
Forgetting
all
that
their
part.
logos.
Registered trademarks of Lex Luthor. Uh, Aside from, like, and I'm not saying he's a perfect filmmaker by no stretch, but like I got to give the guy, he has his vision, and he's got a style to his films, and I'm excited to see where his 4 hour epic is going to take us. Uh,
It
I
ends
think
on a
it's,
cliffhanger, he says. So we won't know exactly where it's going to take us. It'll take us to a point.
and this is the part I wonder. It's like, how much money does HBO Max get, like, out of the AT&T pool for Warner Brothers? Like,
No
they
idea.
seem to have a lot of money, like a lot of spending money right now to kind of bolster this new service. And I agree, because I think like streaming services, I think, are ultimately going to be the future of media. I don't think, as much as I love the big screen experience, I don't think theaters are going to ever fully rebound from COVID.
Hmm.
And also just the general trend, I think that people are starting to stay home more as technology has become cheaper and more affordable for the comfort of home. You've got your nice 4K television or projector and the
I,
comforts of home. I think a lot of people are leaning towards streaming anyways.
yeah, I think that's
So,
just it. People have invested a shit ton of money in making sure that their houses have nice TVs and a good setup, and so I
and
see
streaming
I see that
services seem to
happening.
be a perpetual money making machine. Like, I don't know how they make money. Like, I get that, you have a monthly subscriber base and it keeps growing, so your monthly income grows. Who would have thought that that was a model to make billions of dollars? But apparently it is.
Hmm.
But then you've also got to keep spending billions of dollars.
Yep.
So my thought is there a way that the Snyderverse, or whatever you want to call it, kind of like splinters off from the DCEU as we know it in the theatrical realm? Does HBO, sorry, HBO Max, start funding like spin-offs from Justice League in their own tangent? Like, do we get that Batman versus Deathstroke miniseries or movie they're talking about? Do we get, World's Finest with Cavill and Affleck, they've talked about? I wonder, and I know a lot must be riding on the success of the Zack Snyder's Justice League.
But
If
that
this
brings up
thing bolsters the I guess the memberships or whatever it is it's got to do, like, I mean, that has to be why they would pour the money, the $70 million into this project, is to
and
bolster their subscriber base. But like, how much can that really
that's
one movie do? You know what I mean?
that's what I don't understand. I don't know what their measure of success is going to be for this. I don't know what their business case is to say, okay, this is how it's going to get back the money we're spending on it, unless they're going to release it on the streaming and then also release it in like in for purchase.
Well, I imagine that's coming, and I imagine there's
It's
going to
the
be a
only way
limited
that they'll recoup their
theatrical
money,
run
because
too.
it's the only way they'll get their money back. And that's, I think, where it's going to come down to whether they create these other properties that you mentioned, is if they actually recoup anything. Because it's not just going to be word of mouth. And it's, I mean, getting the subscriber base is going to be great. But one of the things HBO always had an issue with, um, and any of these streaming services have issues with is when they have a big marquee product or show and it launches and everybody's on it for however long it runs, and then there's a
And then
steep
they're
drop
off.
off.
And that's why you have to, like, you perpetually have to have the content coming.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, HBO is throwing out things like, oh, they're saying Harry Potter sequels could happen on HBO Max, and they're like really peppering in these ideas. So I'm wondering, like, if Warner Brothers, the theatrical division, isn't willing to take the risks on these things, but HBO Max is, do we get that tangent timeline where, like, you know,
Maybe.
we see what happened, like, honestly, like they put out an article today about Zack Snyder's plans for Justice League 2 and 3, and it sounds bonkers, but in a good way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's them taking risks with the characters and with the storytelling that you wouldn't typically see in it. And I totally see why Warner Brothers chickened out. Like, it's like he was telling like a post-apocalyptic story, like the world
Yeah.
gets conquered. And it's like
A
the
Rock of
remnants of the.
Ages, Final Crisis type of blending
Well,
of.
it almost turns into like a Mad Max world, like as
Yeah.
we saw in the nightmare sequences, right? And I'm like, but that we've got our comics to tell us the ongoing stories. Tell us something interesting like that. Show us what the world is when the League is defeated and have to rebuild. And
And I think that's the
I mean, the
that's
Flash is there, so the timeline's going to be fixed by the end.
yeah. Well, it should be, but I think that's what's so funny is that we're saying that now, but when he was originally coming out, we were saying, I don't want dark and gritty. I just want a happy Superman. I just want like these kind of things. I want to
It's
see
true. It's
the
true. It's
hope
true.
coming from those things.
As
But
nerds, we don't really know what we want.
we're fickle. We are very fickle because we wanted light and happy, and then we got something like Endgame where like everything was dark and depressing, like Infinity War and Endgame, where everything was dark and depressing, and then it ends in a kind of happy story, except for Old Man Cap. But even Old Man Cap ends up having a happy moment, and all these kind
Oh
of
man,
things.
Tony died, man.
Yeah, that was Iron
I
Man.
wasn't I wasn't done with Tony Stark yet, man. They robbed us, man. Just
But that's what.
just double his bloody paycheck and keep it going, man.
But that's what I mean.
Now
Like,
we're getting Armor Wars without Iron Man.
yeah, that's what I mean. Though we were like, I don't want this. I don't want this. And then we got something close to what we wanted because it was lighter than the original vision. And then now we're like, no, give us the dark shit. What is this? What is this?
Hey, I want DC movies to be the counterweight to Marvel movies. I love my colorful heroes and comic pages come to life, and I don't need it in different format. Like, I don't need the Batman and Superman version of it. I really want to have DC telling me the stories that I can't get over at Marvel, if you
Mhm.
get what I mean, and vice versa. Would I love an ongoing series of Batman movies where, like, the character grows and the world expands and he get start, his rogues gallery grows in the films? Sure. We're never going to get that because the actors never seem to stick around long enough.
Mhm.
Uh, and this new Batman movie sounds like a train wreck from what all the rumors make it sound like. So I was already, I mean, I wasn't really sold on Pattinson as Batman, anyways. The trailer gave me a little bit of hope, but then all the rumors have come out about the problems on the set, and and just like even the statements made in the media about, like, about the character, and then I think about him in Twilight and how he kind of like hemmed and hawed in that too when he was promoting that thing, and it's like he couldn't give a shit about it because, like, it's beneath him. Well, I feel like he's not the type of actor that's going to commit to this role the way we want to see Batman played. Um, I hope I'm wrong. Like, I really do.
Mhm.
But there's something about, like, this storyline that looks off to me. Like, there's rumors that, like, the Waynes, are tied to, like, organized crime and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's the dark and gritty part I'm not caring for. Like, when you go and you gotta, like, go against the essence of the characters. Whereas, like, in Snyder's version, from what I can tell, and maybe I'm wrong, but like he hasn't deviated too far from the core of the characters. He has gone a little darker with Superman, right, with Man of Steel, and that was because the world was demanding like a contemporary version. They didn't want Donner's Superman
Mhm.
until they got him in Infinite Crisis, or Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths over on the CW, and they're like, oh, that's what it could have been,
Yeah.
you know.
And then everybody wanted it.
But then Superman Returns was fresh in our minds still, so it's like
Well, and
I see where
Superman
they were
Returns
going with
got
it.
shit on. Superman Returns was like panned. People did not like that movie.
I saw it 5 times in theaters,
I saw it a few times myself.
and
But
I
but
I
in
get
general,
the
people are like,
complaints.
"Oh,
It's
that's
slow.
just
It's a little bit boring, but like, that's kind of like what I wanted from it. If that makes any sense. Like
the
I
only
liked
thing."
the sort of end cap to the Donner movies. I think that they kind of made it murky with the way they did the kid and the stepfather or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's like Perry's nephew or something.
The only thing I didn't want from that movie was another real estate scheme. I felt like
Oh well,
that,
too.
like,
That's all. That version of Lex. That's all he knows. Okay, he can
so
only swindle the real estate property, and specifically California.
so that's kind of what's happening. I think you're right. I think when we see more success from the HBO Max thing, we'll probably see more DC stuff in that format. And it
Mhm.
makes me question what's really going to be happening on mainstream TV with all of the Warner Brothers properties, the CW stuff.
Well,
Like,
actually,
where does that live?
they did actually make a statement about that. They're saying that the CW shows and the HBO Max shows that currently exist, like are in the pipeline, all exist in the same continuity as the CW shows. I don't know how that works exactly, but that's what they're saying.
Okay. Well, and they teased that in Infinite Crisis. They had um or Crisis on Infinite Earths, they had those other timelines showing up in there. So I guess that kind of makes sense. Maybe we just get lucky and we get it in all sorts of formats. We get
That's true. I'm
whatever
just
kind
a
of
ranting
superhero you're
fanboy
looking
anyway,
for.
so like I don't take what I say
The,
seriously.
the reality is we are of an age and a demographic that no matter what we get, we're not going to be happy with it.
Now,
They'll give us what
I
we want and we'll say, well, I did want that, but you should know better. What I really wanted was
that's what I wanted last week.
yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question because I
Sure.
believe you've watched it. I haven't. Is Superman and Lois?
I have bought a season's pass for it off of iTunes so that I can stay up to date on it.
Okay.
Episode one didn't blow me away.
Okay.
Um, so it's funny that I bought the season's pass for it, but I really love having a Superman on TV again. Um, and it's not a Smallville ripoff just yet, and
Like angling there.
it's not necessarily the Superman, like Superman and Lois from the comics that came out a couple of years ago, but it's kind of giving me that perspective on super dad type of thing of what would he actually be like. um it's an interesting continuation of a character that was introduced in the CW and was fairly neutered in the CW, but they're bringing him in and he seems to be a little bit more powerful. I really like the costume. I like that he's not infallible. Like, in order to be Superman, he has to be a crappy dad type of thing, and that's a trade-off that
Okay.
he's had to make. That he is the Superman. He's the greatest guy on the planet, but he can't always make it to his kids' games. He can't always make it to his kids' therapy appointments. Like, he just can't always be there because he's out doing something else.
He's
Um,
gonna be like, Dad, you're the reason I have an anxiety disorder.
yeah, it's that kind of thing. Like, I have an anxiety. He has one kid that's like a pro star superstar in football and all this kind of stuff, and another kid that's more emo that has social anxiety
Oh,
issues
really?
and goes in and is in
What's wrong?
therapy and stuff like that. um so I like that. I like seeing that kind of split and him having to deal with a real life issue and not
Mhm.
just having an all-star super kid type of thing. How is he going to handle that kind of thing? um I like that kind of aspect to it. I don't know if it's going to stick the landing in the long run. Because I don't, as much as I'm curious to see it, I don't know that I like him having two kids as much as I'm not sure I like having Jonathan Kent. And one of the kids is named Jonathan, the other one's Jordan. I don't know what the callback is there.
Well, like it was, I don't know what the Jordan thing is, but I know like it was one of the blips that happened with the Infinite sorry, Christ on Infinite Earths when it rebooted the continuity for the CW. It went from one kid to two like overnight.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'll see how it goes, but it's definitely been um like I say, it's great. It's great when you see Superman tackling a nuclear reactor meltdown by
Mhm.
freezing a lake and lifting a giant iceberg out of the water and then throwing it into the core to help
Well, that's
cool
cool.
things down. Like it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, that's what he would do. Yes, it is. That is Superman. You nailed it. And he's all like, yeah, it's there are moments like that where I was like, you nailed that. You nailed that component of him. You've got that. And then you see him go home. And then the other thing that I like about it is spoiler, no spoiler, but his parents die. So his dad died when he was a lot younger, and then within the pot,
As traditional podcast.
yeah, Pa Kent passes, and then much like in some of the earlier continuity, both his parents were actually gone. So Ma Kent also ends up passing away in it. So and he's left with the farm and the decision of what does he do. Does he go stay in Metropolis? Does he stay in Smallville and help bring the farm back and raise his kids there and kind of give them some of what he was, even though he can't do the same thing that his parents did? Because it's a much different thing having fragile people raise a superhuman thing
So
with
it's telling.
powers.
So is it telling the story of baby boomers trying to raise children in the modern day?
It's something like that. I never dreamed of a world where people would refer to Superman as a boomer, but that's probably the world we're
Well,
in.
the Great Depression and on Krypton just before the apocalypse came, and well, things happened.
Things happened. Yeah. Yeah. When he used to go to school, he would fly uphill in his shoes in a snowstorm, and he'd have to fly uphill on the way back. So yeah,
I mean, well, tell me, did Pa Kent sacrifice himself in a tornado and to keep his secret?
just to and brush him away. No, son, this is my
No,
job now.
I'm supposed to die this way.
Yes, no, no.
Traumatize both you and your mother. It's fine.
Traumatize both of you. You're going to see my body, especially you. You'll see my body whisked up into
The
the
world
air.
can never know that you're an alien until 20 years from now.
Yeah, no, he just dies in the middle of the street, type of thing. So,
Was it down a dark alley as they were being mugged by a desperate criminal, superstitious and cowardly lot?
yeah, I shall become a bat. No, um, it was interesting. It's check out the pilot and see. It
Okay.
definitely has issues, but I can see where what they're trying to do. And like I say, when you're, it's a I'm a sucker for Superman on TV. Having a Superman to watch on TV is in the same way I was a sucker for the Flash, and then the Flash stories kind of got a little bit over for me, and I was like, okay, I need to take a break. Um, it's that same type of thing. It gets when things get too CW drama and getting too much into the meta human stuff, and they lose sight of what the character developments are supposed to be for the story, is where I back away. So long as they can keep that kind of human aspect to it, which I think is what helps Superman
So,
thrive.
so is your favorite CW show Batwoman then?
God damn you. I haven't. The funny thing is, I own season one of Batwoman. As soon as I found out she wasn't coming back, I was like, I'm not going to continue watching these episodes because what's the point of this storyline? And I haven't picked up with the new Batwoman. I'll admit that I haven't picked that up.
And
So
that's okay because I didn't even watch the first, and I'm not going to watch the second. I can't stand. I don't know. There's just something about the CW shows that really lost me, especially after Arrow lost its focus and stopped being what it was. to expand to allow the greater DC universe. Um, I think it really hurt the Arrow show overall. Not that I didn't enjoy like the more characters existing and crossing over and more shows expanding, but it kind of, I think in general cost the show the direction a lot, and
Mhm.
I think they kind of sacrificed it too to make room for other stuff. And
They
after
definitely lost
Infinite
their
Crisis
way.
and Infinite Earths, it kind of lost something for me. So
Mhm.
I haven't come back yet from that after that event.
I can't say that I watched many more episodes after that either.
Hmm.
So
So yeah, I don't know.
I would say that's probably a fair feeling, and it's one of those ones that I've always had in the back of my mind with the CW is, oh shit, just how Dawson's Creek is some of this stuff going to get, and it
It's
gets,
like, is it going full Riverdale this week? You know,
yeah,
like, and it
like
just
it's just got some of the stuff just gets too much, and I'm like, okay, as a 40-year-old guy, I got to step back and be like, this show's not for me now. This episode just, it's not speaking to me.
yeah.
Whereas Superman right now, he's got 2 kids. I got some kids. He's got superpowers. I mean, I don't want to let anything out of the
Does
bag,
he
but
have a mortgage?
he's got he's being just completely swallowed by debt. I
Yeah.
mean,
Lois, did you file our taxes? Oh no,
did
the
you did
deadline
you
was Thursday.
did you remember to pay the water bill? I thought you paid the water bill. I mean,
And the pipe
th-
shuts off. Oh,
this is just what happens. He's a boomer.
well,
I never thought about it, but yeah, people would refer to Superman as a boomer, and I don't know if I'm ready to live in a world like that.
well, I have to go back to the Batman the movie as our kind of our last topic. I know we're running a little long here, but for the love of God, can we please not relive the murder of Thomas and Martha Wayne?
Oh no, we have to in
Like
gory detail.
I don't want to see the pearls fly off and fall into the gutter. I don't want to see Bruce kneeling on the ground, vowing vengeance and making a promise.
Now, what if it's even just in like he wakes up in a feverish dream from it?
Nope, not at
No,
all. Let,
nothing.
honestly, let Spider-Man Homecoming it and just say, you know, acknowledge that something happened in the past, but we're not even gonna retread that.
Okay, let's see what they do, because that
I mean, we
first
even got it in
trailer.
the movie. It's not even Batman's movie, and still the Waynes get murdered in there. How many times do we have to see Thomas and Martha Wayne get murdered?
They are very important people. You have to see this
God,
at every
we're
opportunity.
probably even gonna see it in Justice League.
Yeah. Oh, you're guaranteed to see it in Justice
It's just no more. Everyone knows the Batman story. We don't need a new iteration.
League.
Oh yeah, no, please no.
Well, I think that's our opinion. that, that's kind of, I think the oh God, please no kind of sums up some of our opinion on where DC's at with some of their decisions, and we can only hope that something good comes of it and that we are proven wrong, and that there are diamonds in all of this roughness that we're going to end up seeing.
I hope so. I don't think all hope is lost. I do think ultimately Infinite Frontier is promising, but with a very thick grain of salt. Like I don't know how much I can buy it, but I'll hold hope like a rumor that it's going to get better.
Just hold it like a very delicate chick and don't squeeze. Just hold it very delicately.
Nurture it, let it grow into something
Nurture it. Yes.
nourishing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you have any other thoughts or opinions, you can share them with us at on the comments at terminalvelocitypodcast.com or over at send us an email at terminalvelocitypodcast@gmail.com. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Yeah, and if you think I should buy a green screen so I'm not glitching half of the episode, you can let us know on Twitter at Comics Terminal. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. So until next week, we will See you later.
Take care.